a dance that will bring about the end of all creation, all time, all life. Chapter 1. It is a place of skulls, a deathly place where we confront our violence and feel, before that broken and self-ravaged face, the murderers we are, brought here to kneel. Kate Martinelli sat in her uncomfortable metal folding chair and watched the world come to an end. It ended quite nicely, in fact, considering the resources at hand and the skill of the participants, with an eye-searing flash and a startling crack, a swirl of colors, then abrupt darkness. And giggles. The lights went up again. Parents and friends rose to applaud wildly, and 23 brightly costumed and painted children gathered on the stage to receive their praise. The reason for Kate's presence stood third from the end, a mop-headed child with skin the color of milky coffee, a smile that lacked a pair of front teeth, and black eyes that glittered with excitement and pride. Kate leaned over to speak into the ear of the woman at her side. "Your goddaughter makes a fine monkey." Lee Cooper laughed. "Mina's been driving Roz and May nuts practicing her part. She wore one tail out completely and broke a leg off the sofa jumping onto it. Last week she decided she wasn't going to eat anything but bananas until Roz got a book that listed what monkeys actually eat. I hope she didn't then go around picking bugs out of tree trunks. I think Roz read selectively. Never trust a minister. Do you know—" Kate stopped, her face changing. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a vibrating pager, looked up at Lee, and shrugged in apology before digging the cell phone out of her pocket and beginning to push her way toward the exit and relative quiet. She was back in a couple of minutes, slipping the phone away as she walked up to the man who had been sitting on her other side during the performance and who was now standing at Lee's elbow, watchful and ready to offer a supporting hand in the crowd. Lee's caregiver spoke before Kate could open her mouth. "What a pity. You're going to miss the fruit punch and cookies." She rolled her eyes and said low into John's ear, "Why, it couldn't have come an hour ago." "Poor dear," he said, sounding not in the least sympathetic. "A policeman's lot is not a happy one." "If I find you a ride, would you take her home?" "Happy to. I'll be going out later, though." "She'll be fine." Now for the difficult part. "Lee," Kate began. "Sweetheart." But groveling didn't prove necessary. "You're off, then?" "I'm sorry." "Liar," said Lee cheerfully. "But you've been a very brave honorary godmother, so now you can go and play with your friends. That was Al, I assume?" Kate and her partner, Al Hawken, were on call tonight, and in a city the size of San Francisco, a homicide was no rare thing. She nodded, hesitated, and kissed Lee briefly on the cheek. Lee looked more pleased than surprised, which Kate took as a sign that she was doing something right, and Kate in turn felt gratified beyond the scope of her lover's reaction. Their relationship had been more than a little touchy in recent months, and small signs loomed large. She stepped away carefully, looking down to be sure she didn't knock into Lee's cuffed crutches, and walked around the arranged folding chairs to congratulate Mina's adoptive parents. They were surrounded by others, bent on the same purpose, or rather, Roz was surrounded by a circle of admirers, this tall, brown-haired, slightly freckled woman who was glowing and laughing and giving off warmth like, as one article in the Sunday Chronicle had put it, a fireplace of the soul. When she had read that phrase, Kate had wondered to herself if the reporter really meant that Roz was hot. She was, in fact, one of the most unconsciously sexy women Kate knew. Kate hadn't seen Roz in a couple of weeks, but she knew just looking at her, the way she gestured and leaned